In 1962, a French caver named Michel Siffre climbed alone into a cave 200 feet underground. No clock, no sunlight, no way to track day or night. He stayed there for 2 months. When he finally climbed back out, he was certain only 34 days had passed. His mind had lost more than half the time that had actually happened to him. Siffre wasn't confused. He wasn't lying. His brain had been doing exactly what it always does. It just had nothing to hide it from him this time. And what happened to him in that cave is happening to you right now. In broad daylight, most people assume time is something you experience passively. A clock ticks, a day passes, a year ends. You're just along for the ride, but that assumption is wrong. Time as you experience it is not a measurement. It is a construction. Your brain does not have a stopwatch anywhere inside it. There is no internal clock counting seconds, the way the one on your wall does. Instead, your brain builds your sense of time after the fact, out of something else entirely. Memory. And memory is not reliable. It is not neutral. It is not evenly distributed, which means the version of time you experience was never accurate to begin with. To understand why, you need to understand how your brain actually decides how long something felt. Here's the part almost nobody knows. It estimates duration afterward, based on how much new information it had to process. Neuroscientists call this density encoding. When you experience something new, unfamiliar, or rich with detail, your brain lays down memories at a higher resolution. More snapshots, more texture, more to retrieve later. When you later look back and ask how long that experience felt, your brain essentially counts the snapshots. More snapshots, more memory, feels like more time. Fewer snapshots, less memory, feels like less time. And it's why a routine week at home can feel like it disappeared in an instant. Same 7 days, wildly different amount of recorded experience. In 2005, neuroscientist David Eagleman at Baylor College of Medicine ran an experiment to test this directly. He had volunteers wear a watch that displayed random numbers and dropped them from a 150-foot tower in free fall onto a safety net below. A genuinely terrifying experience. Afterward, he asked them to estimate how long the fall had taken. On average, people overestimated the duration by about 36%. But here's the twist. When Eagleman checked whether they could read the random numbers on the watch faster during the fall than normal, they couldn't. Their perception hadn't actually sped up. Their brain wasn't recording more frames per second like a camera. It was recording more memory per second. And it was that denser memory, retrieved afterward, that made the fall feel like it lasted longer than it did. You don't experience time slowing down in danger. You experience your memory of it expanding. The terror wasn't speeding up your perception. It was forcing your brain to pay unusually close attention, and attention is what gets stored. But here's where it gets stranger. If density of memory is what creates the feeling of duration, that explains something that should disturb you slightly. As you get older, your days become more repetitive. You drive the same route, you see the same faces, you follow the same routines. Your brain, recognizing the familiar pattern, stops laying down detailed memories. Why waste resolution on something it's already encoded 100 times before? So it compresses, it records less. And when you look back at last month, there's almost nothing there to retrieve, which means it feels like it barely happened at all. This is the actual mechanism behind why time seems to accelerate as you age. It's not that time is moving faster. It's that your life has become predictable enough that your brain stopped bothering to record it in detail. And here's the part almost nobody talks about. This effect compounds, year over year, in a way that's almost mathematically cruel. In the early 1900s, French philosopher Paul Janet proposed something now called Janet's law. He suggested that each year of your life feels shorter relative to all the years you've already lived. At age 5, 1 year is 20% of your entire existence. It feels enormous. At age 50, 1 year is 2% of your existence. It feels like nothing. The math is unforgiving. By that logic, half of your subjectively experienced life, the portion that will ever feel long and rich and expansive, is already over by around age 18. Not because you've lived half your years, because the years that came first carried disproportionately more psychological weight. Modern neuroscience didn't just confirm Janet's math, it found the mechanism behind it. Novelty. Childhood is saturated with first-time experiences. First day of school, first kiss, first heartbreak, first job. Each one demands dense encoding. Adulthood, for most people, contains far fewer firsts. The years compress because the experiences inside them stopped being new. So if novelty is the variable, the solution sounds simple. Just keep doing new things. But there's a darker layer underneath this. In 2019, a study published in the journal Trends in Cognitive Sciences examined what's called the holiday paradox. People take a trip. It feels like it flew by while they were living it, but expands when they remember it weeks later. A normal week at home does the opposite. It feels long while you're in it, but evaporates in memory almost immediately. This means your two experiences of time, the one you feel while living and the one you feel while remembering, are not just different. They are inversely related, which raises an uncomfortable question. If the week that felt longest while you were living it is the one your future self will barely remember, which version of time is actually real? The one your present self experiences, or the one your future self will carry around as the entire record of that week ever having happened? Michel Siffre went back into caves several more times over the following decades, each time losing track of time in slightly different ways. In his later years, he noted something the data hadn't predicted. The deeper into isolation he went, the faster his sense of time collapsed, until weeks blurred into what felt like days. He wasn't malfunctioning. He was experiencing, in extreme concentrated form, exactly what happens to you in slow motion across your entire adult life. A mind that stops encoding because nothing new is asking to be encoded. You are not running out of time. You are running out of memory dense enough to make time feel real. The good news hiding inside this uncomfortable mechanism is that it's not fixed. The same brain that compresses a routine month into nothing can expand a single unfamiliar afternoon into something that lasts in your memory for decades. The length of your life was never going to be measured in years. It was always going to be measured in how much of it you actually managed to notice.